Hello students, welcome you all in lesson number 4, class 10th, that is carbon and its compounds. Carbon and its compounds. We are going to study about carbon and the compounds formed by the carbon. Okay, let us discuss about the carbon. First of all, carbon. As you know, whatever you see around you that may contain carbon in any form. For example, you are having a book, it is also having carbon in it. Okay? Uh, all living things, whether they are plants or animals, they also have carbon in them. Because of all these things, the importance of carbon is very much more than other compounds because it is present in all living things. Proteins also contain carbon. If we talk about carbohydrates, they also have carbon. Fats, fatty acids, all these have carbon in them. Petrol, diesel, kerosene oil, whatever the things are, whatever the kind of fuel is, they all have carbon in them. Carbon is very important in our day-to-day life. Now we are going to study about the carbon and its compounds. First of all, we should know some points, some important points regarding carbon. If we look at the carbon, its symbol is C. Symbol is C, atomic number. Atomic number is 6. If we talk about the configuration of carbon is 2, 4. Means it has two shells and in outermost shell it has 4 electrons. How many electrons are there in outermost shell? 4 electrons. We can represent these 4 electrons like this. These 4 electrons are there in its valence shell. Now the question arises whether it loses electrons or gains electrons to complete its octet. Means to completely fulfill its outermost shell. Outermost shell has 2 or 8 electrons. If it is fully filled, 2 or 8 electrons are there. It means if the carbon wants to complete its outermost shell, it needs 4 more electrons or 4 electrons, or what other case can be there? It has to lose 4 electrons. If carbon wants to complete its octet, then it has to lose 4 electrons or has to gain 4 electrons. But this is not possible. If we talk about the carbon, if it is going to gain 4 electrons and becoming C4, if it wants to gain 4 electrons, then it will have 10 electrons. 6 already there, 10 electrons, then it will have 10 electrons. Therefore, its nucleus, which is having 6 protons, the nucleus which is having 6 protons, for the nucleus it becomes very difficult to hold 10 electrons because it is having 6 electrons. Therefore, this case is not possible. If we talk about second case, that is 4 plus, it means if it loses 4 electrons to complete its octet or completes its outermost shell, then to remove 4 electrons from the outermost shells, it requires large amount of energy. Large amount of energy is required required to remove 4 electrons. So therefore, these both cases are not possible. Neither we can remove 4 electrons from its valence shell, nor it can gain 4 electrons from other electrons. Then what it will do? Then what it will do? It can neither lose electrons nor gain 4 electrons. Then it will start sharing electrons. Sharing electrons. As we know, bond formed by sharing of electrons is called covalent bond. Covalent. The bond formed by sharing of electron is called covalent bond. It means carbon always make covalent bond by sharing the outermost electrons. It is not only the carbon that makes covalent bonds. There are so many other compounds or molecules which form covalent compounds, covalent bonds. For example, hydrogen molecule, H2 molecules. Atomic number 1, configuration 1. It requires 1 electron to complete its octet. Complete its outermost shell. It requires 2 electrons in the outermost shell. It is having 1 electron. The other carbon atom, other hydrogen atom also has 1 electron. Then these 2 hydrogen atoms share electrons with each other, and bond is formed between them. The bond is formed between them. The bond is called covalent bond. Covalent bond. And this shared pair of electrons belongs to the outermost shell of both hydrogen atoms. It means outermost shell of this hydrogen also has 2 electrons. Then outermost shell of this hydrogen atom also have 2 electrons. It means they acquired stable gas configuration. Stable configuration. Stable configuration. In this way, the hydrogen molecule is formed. Now, let's talk about another molecule which is formed by the sharing of electrons. That is oxygen, O2. Atomic number of oxygen is 8. Configuration is 2,6. Means it is having 6 electrons in its outermost shell. It requires 2 electrons to complete the outermost shell. If we represent these electrons with dots, these are the 2 electrons. 2 electrons are there and 2 electrons are there. It means this oxygen is having 6 electrons. There is one more oxygen atom. It is also having 6 electrons in its outermost shell. Then these 2 electrons are shared by these 2 atoms equally. These 2 shared pair of electrons are equally shared by the outermost shell of these 2 atoms. It means it is also having 8 electrons, 2, 4, 6, 8. This oxygen atom also has 8 electrons, and this also has 8 electrons, 2, 4, 6 and 8. Their octet is complete, and the molecule is O2. Now let's take one more example with which it will become clear to you all how the covalent bonds are formed. The next example is of N2, nitrogen. Atomic number 7, configuration is 2,5. How many electrons are required over here? It needs 3 electrons. 3 electrons are required to complete its octet, to complete its outermost shell. Now we can represent the outermost shell's electrons with this way. These are the electrons present in the outermost shell of this nitrogen, and these are the electrons, 5 electrons present in the outermost shell of this nitrogen atom. These 3 electrons are shared equally by both nitrogen atoms, and 3 covalent bonds are formed between this, and the molecule is energy. In this way we can understand how the covalent bonds are formed. In the similar way, carbon also makes covalent compounds. Carbon also make covalent compounds. For example, carbon is, as we already discussed, carbon has 4 electrons in its outermost shell. If we talk about the hydrogen has 1 electron. Okay, and this electron, outermost shell electron, is shared with hydrogen, this with another hydrogen, and this with another hydrogen, and this with another hydrogen. These 4 hydrogen are bonded to 1 carbon atoms. Now each hydrogen atom has 2 electrons, which is sufficient to complete its outermost shells. Now this carbon atom has 8 electrons in it. 2, 4, 6 and 8. It means the outermost shell of the carbon atom is also complete, and the outermost shells of 4 hydrogen atom is also complete. In this way the carbon forms a covalent compounds. Covalent bonds or covalent compounds. In the next lecture we will discuss about the allotropes of the carbon. Until that, goodbye.